Hey everybody, welcome back to the K2N Online Paddle School. We are back here on YouTube, and this week we are talking about properly engaging the lower body to properly engage the hips and power the hands throughout the paddle stroke. When we are in seated paddle sports specifically, we are locked into very specific positions with our legs. This is partly due to the steering system. We have pedals, both feet have to be in front of us to properly engage that system. Very specific position, we have to move in a very specific way to power the hands properly. As my lower body goes through motion, we want to make sure that connects to the hand. My legs and hips moving are now moving my hands through space. So my hands are now powered by the lower body. A disconnect in this is where the legs and the hips move and my hands don't move. There are numerous reasons why this would occur. Being too loose through the abdomen and moving the lower body incorrectly won't connect to the hands as effectively. And my hands are in space and you can see my legs and hips are moving all over the place and I haven't done anything here. Visual guide, as I take a stroke, I can pump my legs, but I'm not getting anything out of it. Only by connecting the body very specifically. When my legs and hips move, now my hands are traveling through space. We're using the water under us as a leverage point to push off of to move the boat forward. That water is under us. So as we're going through this motion, we want this top hand and bottom hand very specifically traveling towards the water. If this hand starts traveling upward, we're going away from our leverage point and we don't get as much out of the stroke. So what this means is we need to move the body very specifically to get this hand not only to travel through space, but to travel downwards towards the water. By going through this hip rotation, I can get this hand to travel through space and I complete this motion. You can see how much my hand has traveled towards the water in this motion. So as we have the kayak stroke here, right, the majority of this motion is being completed because of my lower body. Same idea with the canoe stroke. As I'm going through, my top hand and shoulder traveling to the water from the success of the movement of the lower body. As we do that, as we're taking a stroke on the left side, this left knee is going to go forward and all of your leverage point is going to come from that same side leg. You are turning and leaning forward to try and transfer weight specifically to that foot. We call this loading the leg. Your quadricep is going to engage, and as this quadricep engages, this gives you the leverage point to push off of it. Akin to like a leg press or stepping up on a platform. As you load the quadricep, it is engaged and gives you leverage to push off of. If you start your stroke and you don't have any weight or leverage with your lower body, you have nothing to push off of as you go through the stroke, thus creating a disconnect, and your upper body has to complete this motion without the input from the legs. Again, it's all very specific. When we turn in this specific way, we engage very specific leg muscles, which gives us the ability to use those leg muscles to move the hips, to move the shoulders, and to guide this top hand down towards the water. We have the kinetic chain from the foot to the knee to the hip through the thoracic spine, from the shoulder to the other shoulder, elbow, hand, all powered into the stroke. Any one of those joints loses that connection, you lose some of that power, and now your upper body is working independently of the lower body. So that's a summary of most of the videos on this YouTube channel. So what we're going to talk about today is some of the misconceptions that come from utilizing the legs. Robert, why don't I utilize the power of both of my legs? Because on paper, 2 legs is better than 1 leg. So as we're going through this, we are engaging 1 leg more than the other, right? When you take a left side stroke, using the left side leg. When you're paddling on the right side, you're engaging your right side leg more. You're only taking 1 stroke at a time on 1 side of the boat. You're engaging 1 half of the body slightly more than the other. You're trying to engage the entire body the best that you can, but you're getting this leverage point pushing with 1 foot specifically. So as we go through the kinetic chain, there are some issues that we have in this seated position with using both legs. If I try leaning forward with both legs, my hips stay very square. Square is when we are facing in the direction that we want to, and we don't turn at all. I stay very square. So if both legs go forward, both hips go forward, both shoulders shoulders go forward, and my whole body just comes straight at the camera here. Rotation is when we turn and engage one side of the body more, and you can see I turn sideways here. When I do this, again, I'm using one leg very specifically. How do I do this and engage both legs? In seated paddle sports, the answer is you don't. We need the hands to move downwards toward the water. So if I lean forward, both knees go forward, both hips go forward, and I go through the stroke, I'm low in the stroke here. As I push with my legs and sit up with my body, my hands come up following that. There is no way to connect my lower body to my hands to get this hand to drive down. So you might be thinking, Robert, I know a bunch of people push with both legs and their top hand goes down throughout the stroke. You're right. And that's from a disconnect of their upper body working independently of the lower body. Rotation, when I go through this motion, this leg extends and my hips and legs drive this top hand down. If I go forward with both, I can only go up. I can't turn this shoulder into the stroke and get this elevation going downward like I want. I can only keep everything very square. I go down and then I come up. So if you're watching paddlers that can get their hands down through the stroke, they are disconnecting from their lower body and they're using their legs to push up and their hands are coming down like so. This means they're just using their shoulders by themselves. There is a breakdown in the energy from the lower body coming up through the spine because this hand wants to come down like so. Energy is coming up with the hips and it wants to go up through the hands. Now the hands are working independently of that. Now the counterforce from that doesn't come from the legs. Your legs are not helping you drive down. It is now only your upper body. So what can we use with the upper body to drive down against that? I can fold against the spine here and squeeze my abdomen. I can push down with my hands as much as I can. And you can see I break posture as I go forward and sit up through that motion. So one of the main issues from a sports science training approach would be staying square is one of the most common modalities for movement that we go through. Rotational forces are not things that are commonly practiced in a gym setting or through daily movement. But staying square is something that we do all the time. Bench press, pull-ups, deadlifts, squats, all of them, you stay very square and you pull yourself to the bar. You push the bar away from you. You stay square and you squat and you stand. You stay very square, you grab a barbell and stand up. There is no one hip forward, one hip going forward, and there is no rotation that occurs in any of those movements. And the worst offender for teaching people to try and engage both legs is the concept to rower. It is a very accessible, budget piece of workout equipment that is excellent for a cardiovascular and full body workout. But the way it trains your motion is terrible in the context of seated paddle sports. So you might be thinking a seated rowing sport, Robert, that's like the same exact thing, and it's not. One of the main things is when you get into a canoe, there are no moving parts except for you. You are the machine that powers the paddle stroke. When you get into a rowing shell or a Concept 2 rower, you are entering into a machine. The seat slides. There are apparatuses on the side that create leverage points out to the side. These are all things that make the movement more applicable. You get in and power that specific machine. And if you try to work outside of that, the machine won't even function properly. So when you have a sliding seat and you have fixed leverage points with the oar locks on the side that keep your rowing oars in very specific positions, now you can engage both legs in a very square way. Take away the oar locks. You cannot. You would have to turn into your oar to try and get leverage by creating that leverage yourself. Take away the sliding seat and you cannot slide your butt to your heels anymore, and it's much harder to activate these legs. It's especially tricky if you are in a team dynamic and your spot in a boat is dictated by your Concept 2 rower time. Getting good at being square is mandatory to make the team you're looking for. Now the problem is when you get back into a paddling vessel, it is about rotation, creating leverages, holding these leverages, and being the machine, not just powering a machine. My favorite example of this is world's strongest man, Brian Shaw, who lifts Atlas stones off the ground and lifts 500 pounds over his head, never used a Concept 2 rower in his life. gets on one for fun and breaks a world record for, I think, the 200-meter rowing time. No expertise, gets in the machine, cranks on it, and because he's so big and strong, he is a world champion in indoor rowing. Paddling is not that simplistic. It's not just about powering the movement. It is about making sure you're creating these leverages and moving in a very technical way, and that opens the door for power to reach the water. Take away the technical prowess, that energy is not going to reach the water. So I'm not saying the Concept 2 rower is a bad thing, but it develops habit in movement that is going to make you very square and have locked in hips. Again, if I lean forward, the only thing I'm getting with both legs is moving up and down through the stroke. The only way I can get my hand down is if I push my shoulders down. My legs are trying to push my body up. If I connect the lower body directly to my upper body, in the seated position, my hands are gonna go up. The only way I can get this hand to travel downwards is pushing this shoulder and hip towards the water. Turning into the stroke, turning through the stroke, all of this motion is powered by my legs. Take that away here. When I extend both legs, I just come straight up with the hand, I'm low, and I'm high. The only way this top hand can come down is by going down with the upper body. This is not quite as common within the kayak, but it's the same idea. When you're setting up the strokes, make sure that both knees aren't coming forward, because the only thing that can occur is your upper body coming up and down like this as you push with your legs. The amount of force you can get with your lower body in this configuration is tremendous, but it's not connecting through the body to your hands. In a Surfski, you can push with both legs to the point where you literally break your foot plate, but your boat speed doesn't match this Herculean effort and leverage that you're getting with the lower body. So you're pushing with both legs in a way that is very strong in comparison to a leg press, but it's not traveling up the spine, it's not traveling to the hands, and you're not getting 400 pounds of force on the water. You're just pushing excessively into the footwell, and the only thing getting on the stroke is your upper body coming up and down on it. Only by turning and pushing, now you can get all of that lower body force onto that top hand as you complete the stroke. Other sports science term for this would be movement economy. If you are going to move your body and expend energy at one point, you want it to translate directly to performance. If your lower body is working really hard and your boat is not soaring through the water, there's a disconnect. A great way to spend time moving the body properly for what we're looking for in seated paddle sports is to incorporate more rotational exercises where you're standing, you're moving your hips, you're seated, you're moving your hips, and making sure that when you move your legs, you're powering whatever apparatus you're holding with your hands, whether you're pushing it or pulling it or twisting it to the side, whatever it is, try to incorporate movement on land, and it will help you understand that motion when you're in your vessel. If you check out the K2NOnlinePaddleSchool.com, we have all kinds of videos for off-the-water training. Everything we talk about today is in the movement library on off-the-water at-home exercises. 300 videos on the website. Check them out today. Off-the-water training, on-the-water drills, everything that you could need about paddling to improve your skills this season. Excellent, thank you guys so much. So being a YouTube partner now, there is a YouTube membership that you can turn on. Right now it's $2.99, it helps support the channel. There are no additional perks that I had planned for that as I turned on that feature, and a bunch of people have actually just signed up with no benefits back to them. To those people, thank you so much for supporting the online school. I have your names listed right here. If you become a YouTube member, I will add your name to this list and you will be featured here on the YouTube channel. We'll try to add on some additional perks for that monthly subscription. Again, it's $2.99 and it just helps keep this YouTube channel alive. If you really want to support us, go to K2OnlinePaddleSchool.com and check out the 300 videos we have to offer there. Thank you all so much again, and we'll see you next week for our next paddle tip.